Well, here I am in all of my eloquence. And I have been following Black Lightning, the series on CW, for quite some time now. And it's actually one of my favorite superhero shows. But um, I've been making a few observations about this. And I don't know if any of you realized what happened in the plot of the story. See, at the beginning, it started out what seemed to be your regular run of the mill series about white people oppressing black people. Okay, I started picking up on that until about the sixth show in the series. And, Black Lightning had been uh, out of service, and he became the principal of the school of Freeland. And uh, the there was a white police commissioner and a mostly white uh, police staff, and basically there was a lot of prejudice that was going on between whites and blacks, and whenever there was a crime committed, automatically a black person was assumed to have committed the crime. Well, things went a little bit too far, and Black Lightning met up with Gamby, and then at that point in time, he put himself back in service as Black Lightning secretly to right the wrongs that were being done to the impoverished poor black people in the community. Now, that, as far as the show goes, that is an absolutely uh, righteous thing to do. You know, if you can't do the right thing legally, basically is the message that that the entire series is pushing. If you can't do the right thing legally, you can do the right thing morally as a different identity. Well, it just so happens that his two daughters had started to mature, and they started developing powers as well. And then the last oppressive act by a white police force took its toll, and they elected the first black commissioner in the city. And Black Lightning continued to be, Black Lightning continued to be public enemy number one in Freeland, while Mr. Jefferson Pierce, his other personality, continued to be the principal of Freeland High School. It's your destiny. What are you going to do with it? Live it. All right, so now there was a different problem. Jefferson's wife was a biological scientist, or is a biological scientist in the community, and then you've got Tobias, which is an albino. For those of you who don't understand what an albino is, that is a person who is black, and he has a black heritage, and he was born of black parents, but he's white. And many albinos are also blue eyed, and this guy so happens to be white and blue eyed. And then there was McGee, which is another woman, a black woman, and she and Tobias were working together for a while in bringing green light to the community, which is a highly addictive drug, which also caused the teenagers to display specific types of powers. You know, some of them had psychic abilities, some of them had the ability to move things, some of them had the ability to start things on fire, some of them had the ability to throw electricity, etc., etc., etc. And so now it became the focus of both Black Lightning and the police commissioner to take care of this green light. But the police commissioner and Black Lightning were, of course, at odds with each other because Black Lightning happens to be public enemy number one. All right, so now we have Freeland, which now is mostly, if not 100%, a black community. And it has a black police commissioner. Okay, now, when you go through the plot and you see some of the past plots about Greenlight, you remember that Gamby was a part of a government organization, a secret government organization called the ASA, which was developing Greenlight, and Gamby was actually a research scientist who was also trained in ASA methods, and he developed Greenlight to experiment on teenagers between the ages of 13 to 19. Basically, when they got to adolescence, they were introduced to Greenlight. He experimented on them, and if they didn't work out, they were terminated. And then the ASA decided that it wouldn't be a good idea because they were going to be getting too much exposure and they were losing people. And the teenagers that they had been experimenting on were put in suspended animation. And so when Gamby came back to try to fight this Greenlight and to fight the ASA with all of his tools, it became an endeavor to find these kids that had been sitting in suspended animation for like 20 years and set them free and then teach them how to utilize their powers so that they could be non-lethal human beings and live relatively normal lives. And this is where you get Jennifer Pierce's wife. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the character. Liz, I think it is, or I don't know. Okay, so now you've got McGee, then you've got Tobias, then you enter Odell. Okay, now all right. Odell is black in Freeland. McGee is black. Black Lightning is black. his wife and two daughters are black. Uh, the police commissioner is now black. Okay, are you feeling me here? And the people who were white that are on the show were subordinates. So they had to answer to the people in authority who were on the police force. And the gangsters, McGee, Tobias, and Odell, had no black people working for them. So you can kind of see what's going on here is that Freeland, the community itself, is a group of impoverished black people. And at first they were being oppressed and abused by the white authority there. Okay, now listen very carefully. In about the 6th or 7th episode, and on into the 2nd season, the storyline changed. Now, I really enjoy the show. I like Black Lightning. He has the producers and the creators gave Black Lightning an outstanding morality. Gamby saved Jefferson Pierce's life when he was supposed to be terminated by Gamby himself. Took him in and raised him as his son. Now keep in mind, Gamby is white. And then as the daughters came into their own power, he took them under his wing as well, made them suits and taught them combat skills along with their father. They went out on missions and so on and so forth. And this was to combat Greenlight, McGee, Tobias, and what they didn't know is that they were also combating Odell, and they thought that he was on their side. But he was a higher governmental authority that had authority over even a police commissioner. So guess what this guy was doing? This guy was also trying to find these kids that had been in suspended animation for 20 years because he wanted to further develop Greenlight so that he could have his own army to fight ASA. But of course, there's a higher agenda there. But his primary goal, at least at first, was to fight ASA. But instead of fighting ASA, he befriended them, and then he was in charge of them. So now you've got Odell pulling the strings, and the Jefferson Pierce's wife, Mrs. Pierce, had to step in and demand that she be hired after they found these kids to find a way to bring them out of suspended animation without killing them. As she wanted to be able to save 100% of them. So he was forced to hire her and put her on the staff. But in the meantime, he was manipulating one of Jefferson Pierce's daughter to work for him. And so for a good long time, she was working with him in secret, apart from Jefferson Pierce, while Jefferson Pierce was also doing work for him, and they were working with the ASA together. In the meantime, the ASA was being given double instructions, double standards by Odell to find these kids and then continue to test them and then train them in combat. So now you need to understand here that it changed from the white oppression of the 60s to something a little more modern today, to black people assuming power and oppressing the same group of impoverished black people that had previously been oppressed by white people. So now you've got black people oppressing impoverished black people. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I believe that the producers are trying to communicate a moral of the story. That too much power in the hands of any one person, regardless of color, race, background, nationality, corrupts. And I think that they're trying to demonstrate this through these videos so that you will understand through a producer's view of his life and his surroundings what's going on in reality. And in reality, in some places in the United States, the oppressive elements of impoverished black communities are no longer whites. They are black politicians that the impoverished black people elected to fix their problems. And now these impoverished black people are suffering the same kind of oppression at the hands of the black politicians as they were under the white politicians. And their pockets get heavy with money. They've got property, they've got cars, they've got power. And they're doing nothing for the communities. I just wanted to, I really needed to drive this point home. Because whenever somebody creates a series such as this, or a movie, generally it is based on their personal observance of real life events. Now, you kind of know why I'm smiling, right? Because this is what I see as well. So, in any case, I will talk to you later. Thank you.